Good evening and welcome back to Prime of Midlife. It's Friday night, it's the weekend, and tonight we are talking about rubbish. As in the total rubbish that I saw in the Daily Mail today. Now, I know I shouldn't read the Daily Mail, however, excuse me, they were talking about how the public sector workers are talking rubbish when they're saying they can't afford to live and that they have to use food banks, and the Daily Mail was like, no, that's not true, this is ridiculous. If they were saying that on 35 grand, then, then everyone would be in trouble. And they're like, yeah, but everybody is. What are you talking about? However, having read the thing, I thought I would do my own little research. And I went and looked up an advert for an NHS nurse in 9 miles in Dundee, and I worked out the costs. And when I went back to check the Daily Mail tonight, because I always try and check what I've read earlier before I come on camera, they're actually saying, oh, this nurse, she made 35 grand and she was saying she couldn't afford to live, but her daughter goes to an £11,000 per term private school and she had a 5-star holiday way back in 2017. In 2017, 35 grand was probably enough to do that. Nowadays, it's a completely different story. So, as I say, I went and looked just to go and verify, because what happened in 2017 bears no resemblance to what's happening now. So let me show you what I found, and you can tell me if you think that, the way I see it, if I had trained to be a nurse or a firefighter or a policeman or whatever, and I've done my training, I've taken out possibly student loans for nursing, I'm risking my life every day as a fireman or a police officer, you expect to have a certain standard of living, you expect to be rewarded for that. And that's why in 2017 it was 35,000. Still 35,000. Because this job I looked up starts at 28, top of band 2 is 35. So if you've stayed at a band 2 for a while, you'll be in 35. But if you're starting out, which is what I did, I based it on a load of lives that I know. Like, I used to live across from someone in the flats, and she worked in a hotel for years, and then she became a midwife. So she put herself through university, single parent, put herself through university, became a midwife. Electricity bills, utility costs, they're based on guys that I work with. They came in moaning about their electricity bill, electricity and gas, and so that's where I got my cost from. So these things are all based on what's happening in reality. So this is a band 2 nurse in 9 miles in Dundee. This is where the advert was for. And I have taken it that she lives in Dundee, but at the other side, so she'll need to take a bus every day. So what I'm going to do, I'll just have a look and see if you can see this properly. So there, that's where you need my figures. There we go. So nurse band 2 starting salary, 28,384, which is 1,843 a month. Then you have the rent, the council tax, utilities, which the £500 for utilities shocked me, but the guys at work, that's what they're paying in a 2-bedroom house. Groceries, 250. Now I know that's quite mild, and I know we could do it for a lot less as well, but remember, this is someone working shifts, this is a nurse. So yeah, 250 I think is a reasonable estimate, and possibly in the summer when they're buying more salad stuff, we could, take some money from utilities to go into groceries, so it's going to balance itself out. Broadband, mobile, £80. That probably includes like a Prime subscription or something, or Netflix. Nurses registrations, £10 a month, and travel's £120 a month in the bus to get her up there. So her salary is 1,843. Her outgoings are 1,770. That leaves her £73 a month. Less than £20 a week. That doesn't allow her to buy uniform, shoes, leisure, go visiting her family, or any continuing professional development. Less than £20 a week you're left with now. If you're a nurse starting, if you're a band 2 nurse starting out, less than £20 a week. What was that about? And yet the government the newspapers, the mainstream media are standing there going, they're lying. There's no way a nurse needs to use a food bank. There's no way a fireman needs to use a food bank. Yes, there is. Because in 2017, which is when the Daily Mail plucked that nurse's story from, she was seemingly in some article about the Scottish referendum or something, or Scottish something or other. And they're like, oh, but she had a 5-star holiday. Why not? If she's working day in, day out, saving people's lives, and maybe her husband's a doctor, maybe they're perfectly entitled to go on a 5-star holiday 1 week in the year. Maybe they're entitled to have their kid go to a private school to try and give that kid the best they can. And this is where I think things are going wrong, because what's happening is the government and the media are starting to say, well, why should she? You know, she was boasting about a 5-star holiday. She was boasting about putting her kids to private school. Why not? She trained for years. They're doing continual professional development. They are training for years. They continue to train. Why shouldn't they? Firefighters putting their life on the line every single day for us. Why shouldn't they have a decent standard of living? And that was always something that was accepted. Do you know, a few years ago, say 15 years ago, that was accepted. That your nurses, your doctors, your firefighters, your policemen, they did a good job and they got a good wage. They don't even get a fair wage now. They've been static at that wage for so long that it's barely covering costs. So from being comfortable, they're now starting to scrabble for every penny. And if, you know, some people are saying, I've seen it, you know, the Daily Mail, like, well, you know, why should they? And they should be. So what if we say to them, right, well, you know, live within your means. So imagine, if you will, this couple who's, you've got the nurse and, say, a mechanic. They make a good life. They go on holidays. They've bought themselves a nice house. Mortgage is up in 5 years. You know, they're about my age. Mortgage is, if it's not done already, it's almost done. So, you know, but they as they got better paid, they moved into a luxury, well, not a luxury, but a slightly better home so that they could age in space or age in place. So they've got a nice house, they drive a nice car, but, you know, it's on finance. So what are we supposed to do? Are they supposed to give up the house? Give up the cars? Give up everything? And come down to the level where their means are at the moment? So after working for 40 years, you have to have nothing. All those years of training, all those years of putting in. And you have to have nothing because the government says you don't deserve it and that you can't possibly be that poor. Of course you can. A sudden change of circumstances where your mortgage doubles and your utilities double in the space of 6 months. How does that work? How is that supposed to be, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that? Yes, they do. And that's only the public sector. I mean, the supermarkets, there's one of the supermarkets has put their staff's wages up 3 times in a year to help with the cost of living crisis. And all the government says is, we can't afford this. Well, maybe you need to get rid of your subsidised restaurants. Maybe you need to get rid of the House of Lords, or at least half of them. Maybe you need to look to yourself rather than looking to the general population to try and get you out of the rubbish that you have put into this society now. Because that's what it is. 13 years this government's been in. They can't blame the old government anymore. They can't say, oh, this was Labour's fault, we inherited this. You haven't inherited anything. You've had 13 years. And we're in the worst state I have known since the 70s. I don't remember people having to struggle this much since I was a kid. There was all this, oh yes, it's great, you know, you can buy your council house, you can get a mortgage, you know, you can upgrade. Look, people can become, anyone can become anything. You can become doctors, teachers. You don't need to be part of the ruling class to be able to do that. You know, you can bring yourself up. Social mobilisation and all that. And now, what have they done? That glass ceiling that you used to think was just for women. That glass ceiling's come down with a slam. So just get back in your box and don't think that you're allowed to be expecting more than we intend in giving you. Because what they're doing at the moment is they are vilifying anyone who wants to maintain the standard of living they had in 2017. That's all they're asking for, is to maintain the standard of living they had then, rather than to go back and lose everything. Because that's what's going to happen very, very shortly. People are going to have to give up their houses. People are going to have to give up their cars. They're going to lose everything. And then where are we going to be? I don't know. But as for the Daily Mail and that rubbish that they spouted about the professional class, your doctor, your nurses, your firemen and your policemen, they don't need food banks, they're talking rubbish. Do you want to take a look at that again? Less than £20 per week. That is what they're getting. Now you imagine if they had a 17-year-old still at school. They don't even get child benefit or child tax credits. They maybe get child benefit, which I think is about £80 a month. So that leaves them £40 a week, plus a child to look after. It's not exactly rocket science, is it? Yes, they are using food banks. So many people are using food banks. And I am sick to the back teeth of the government and the mainstream media trying to turn us against each other by using out-of-date information and trying to say that we are trying to put it into our brains that we are not entitled to anything apart from basic living standards. And their basic living standards is you're no starving and you've got a roof over your head. How many people are not going to have that in 6 months? So as you can hear, the cat wants in. So I am going to go and have a lovely relaxing Friday night. I hope you do too. And I will catch you later.